I wrote this because I don't know if you know the effect of chemotherapy is just freezing your brain every now and then, so I didn't trust myself. My name is Ada Merlini. I am from Florence in Italy, and in 1978 we came to this country following my husband's business, and for 1 year, maybe 2, and we are still here. But we go back and forth to Florence every year, as long as we can. We still have all our family and friends there, and we are so lucky to have so many beautiful friends here as well. I'm very emotional because this beautiful movie is really showing the truth, and this is what Padre Pio was really all about. I have seen many other movies where there are impersonators. It's not the same. This is how I met Padre Pio. I met Padre Pio in 1952 when I was 8 years old. And the reason why is because the year before, my mom, who was only 37 years old, I was 7 at that time, my sister was 13. My father was 50, was much older than my mom. And out of the blue, she realized that she had double breast cancer and all the lymph nodes were taken. And my father brought her all over Europe to the best oncologists of that time, but the verdict was always the same. My mother had just 1 month to live. It was 1951. There was none. Not even X-ray for cancer. So there was no possibility of any, not even a miracle. If miracle was in the plans, but my father was an atheist. He was a scientist, and he was a professor at University of Pure Mathematics and Statistics, and he was always also the head of the financial world of the Italian government. He was not politician. It was not a political staff. It was a technical staff. My father hated politics, and so he was torn because he loved my mom. He didn't want to lose my mom, and he would have gone, I would say, to India to a guru if there was any chance that he knew that some kind of miracle would have happened. A friend of his instead told him, why don't you go in the south of Italy, in the Adriatic side, in Puglia, because I heard that there is a priest who does miracles. Okay, I have to make a parenthesis here. This is, he wanted to mean he can intercede for miracles. Because it's important to know for everybody that Padre Pio could never do a miracle. Not even the Virgin Mary could do a miracle. Only God, which is Jesus, can do miracles. But what they do, they can be intercessors. That means, especially for an Italian person, the intercessor is very important, because we always need to be recommended by someone else to do something. And so my mom heard this, and my mother was a profound, devout Catholic. What she told me, and she told my sister and myself many years later, is kind of shocking, because she was the most profound religious person I ever met in my life. But she told me this, you know, when somebody tells you that you have a month to live, the first thing that she felt like was to commit suicide. Because she said, it's unbearable, absolutely unbearable, the idea to have only 1 month. But then, that was just a second. But then she came out of it for 2 reasons. One, because her mom had already died, and my mom knew that she was in heaven, and also that if she had committed suicide, she would never met her mom again. And then because she had 1 month, a whole month, to write a book, so that my sister would know how to raise me, that I was 6 years younger, in the Catholic faith, because with my father there was no hope. So when she heard about the idea of a priest who was doing miracles, she wanted to go. So my father didn't have any option, and they traveled. At the time, there were 12 hours to go from Florence, where we live, to San Giovanni Rotondo, cioè you arrive in the south of Italy, in Puglia, the town is Foggia, then you go up on a plateau, and there was San Giovanni Rotondo. At that time, the streets were not paved, you were walking with pigs and chips and things like that. And there was one little pension who had a very important name of Hotel Santa Maria delle Grazie. And so my mom and my father arrived there with a limousine, and my father told the driver to bring my mother to the church while he was making arrangements in this little pensione to stay. And he really, I know my father enough, that he really was hoping that my mom was going to the church, was meeting Padre Pio, suddenly the miracle was happening, and then maybe they didn't even have to spend the night there. So when my dad entered in this pensione, he was really in state of shock, because there was a man that he knew profoundly, one of the most brilliant minds that he knew. He was also a writer, Professor Tucci, and he couldn't believe why on earth he was there. And then he thought in a second, maybe he's doing some research for a book or something. The other gentleman, who knew my father profoundly well, was almost dropping dead, because to see my father in a place like this was absolutely uncalled. And so he said to my dad, what are you doing here? And he explained about my mom, and that it makes sense. Nobody knew that he was a spiritual son of Padre Pio, Professor Tucci. Profound believer since many years. My father never knew anything about that. So while talking to my dad, he said, would you like to go to meet Padre Pio? And my father said, absolutely not. And I said, I can't. Bruno, you are one of the most intelligent scientists I know. You are so close to a phenomenon that the whole world is talking about, and you don't want to meet him? It's absolutely uncalled for. It makes sense. And my father said, okay. And then he brought at that time, only women could go in church. In the sacristy of the convent were only for men. So he brought my father upstairs. That was the time, the only hour during the whole day, in which Padre Pio was almost not resting like having a nap, resting like talking to people. And my father said, by the way, that he had a tremendous sense of humor. Fantastic. So this gentleman, Professor Tucci, is introducing my father to Padre Pio. And one of the things that my father was really unhappy about was the idea, this gentleman will speak in dialect, I will never understand him. He was a little intellectual snob. And he found out after half an hour that was having the most incredible conversation in perfect Italian. And you know that whoever met Padre Pio, he was not talking perfect Italian, but that was a conversation that my father had. And at a certain Mommy, Dad, would you like to confess? And my father said, absolutely not. And so this gentleman bring my father aside and he said, but you don't know that all the incredible powers, so to speak, all the unusual things, only happen during confession. You have now, there are people who are waiting for months to be able to confess with Padre Pio. They are coming from all over. You are here, you have in a gold plate, he's asking you to do it, and you say, no, at least from the scientific point of view, why don't give it a try? And my father said, okay. And he was raised Catholic, so he knew exactly what a confession was. So being a very honest and strict man, he had a good confession. I assume that he said that the only time he was in church, the last time he was in church was to marry my mom. I assume he said how many years he had never even thought about confession. Whatever. It was an honest confession, but at the end, Padre Pio told him that he was not giving the absolution. So my father was in a state of shock, how dare? And he said, no, I didn't give you the absolution because you came here with your head. I give you the absolution the day when you come back with your heart. So, meanwhile, my mom was, I don't know if you have seen the little church, was the only one when they went, and the only one at the beginning when we went to San Giovanni Rotondo. It looks like a chapel. The small one in the middle was very small. And at the end, there was the beautiful Virgin of the Graces. And then here there was, on the left, there was the confessional where he was confessing the women. And the pews were like this, facing each other. And here we're facing the altar. So my mother was on this side, crying her heart out, because the only thing that she was thinking, I'm going to die. And what is going to be of my kids. That's the only thing that was crying about. And so at a certain point when she was crying, she saw my father coming from the door of the sacristy and crossing the church as a gunshot and going out on the other side of him and looking at her. And so she got an idea. Maybe this is a miracle. I'm going to die, but he's back in church. But the ladies were waiting. That was the time when he was coming down and confessing the women. So these were women who had signed their name maybe a month before, and they had been called that their number was coming up and they were coming from who knows where to wait for their confession. So they saw this beautiful young woman crying, sobbing desperately. So one of them came to my mom and said, asking why she was crying, and she said it. And so she said, you know, I can wait, why don't you take my place and confess with Padre Pio? So time goes, my mother is determined to confess, and she was crying so much she couldn't even breathe. So Padre Pio is asking her, why are you crying? He knew exactly why, but he wanted to hear from her. And she said, Padre, because I'm dying, and I have 2 kids, and I don't know what happened to them. And he said, don't worry about them. They will be fine. But you know that you're here to confess yourself? He said, yes, Father, I can remember everything in this moment. I know. Then answer my question. And he told my mom each specific sin that she should have confessed if she was going with her sane mind to confession. But because my mom was an incredibly scrupulous person, he was telling her one by one that they were not sin and explaining her why. At the end, she said, and now go home and don't worry, everything will be fine. So she went back to my father, they took the limousine, they went back to Florence, and And she went back to the private clinic that we are waiting for her because she couldn't die at home. So my father asked for all the tests to be redone, and all the tests and all the biopsies were redone, and there was no cancer anyway. Okay? So time goes by. My father was a very important man, and was always around the world. So he was also a very severe man. So we were living in Florence, and he was living in Roma because he did not want us to live in Roma because he was afraid that our friends wouldn't be friends for his situation in the government. But he was coming every weekend, so my mom was often going to Roma for all the events and traveling with him. But if he was not coming back, sometimes it was a class for us because he was not interrupting, you know, our important life of us girls. And one few months later, one weekend he didn't come back, but a postcard arrived from San Giovanni Rotondo. 6 months later, he had this coming in and out of his stomach, and he didn't bear anymore. He had to go back. He confessed with his heart. He got the absolution. He became a third lay order. I don't know how to say, you know, you can wear the scapula even if you are not a religious person. And together with Dr. Sanguinetti, I don't know if you remember, he has been named in the hospital. He was the head of the whole thing. So Dr. Sanguinetti asked my father to be part of the group, and together with other 49 people, they founded the hospital, La Casa Sollievo della Sofferenza, which is an incredible hospital. It's open, will be open forever. He's a teaching hospital, it's a research hospital, I think it's the #1 in Europe. Professors from all over Europe go there once a week, once a month to do whatever they have to do free, gratis. And money arrives from all over the world for this hospital. Everybody can go there. If you can pay, you pay. If you cannot pay, there is the room, the administrative room. You go back to the administrative room, money is given to you, and you pay. So nobody lives as a charity lives. So my father, Padre Pio, in the years gave little gifts to my dad that he was always taking out of his pocket. Could be a candy, could be a rosary, and he gave several rosaries to him, rosary that he had prayed with. And my father used to keep his own rosary in his pockets, even if he was going to a black tie, he always had the rosary in his pocket, and he had always the habit to put his hands inside. And sometimes, you know, he came several times to the States with the beautiful cruise, for business, for many things. And you know, temptations are around everybody. So nobody can say, I never got a temptation in my life. But what happened to my dad, and he was telling us openly, because he had this habit to put his hands and touch the rosary, when a temptation arrived, suddenly the rosary was in 2,000 pieces, and my father couldn't stand that. He had to put the pieces together. So every time he had to go back to his room, take the utensils, and put all the pieces together, and when that was finished, he was free. He was himself again. So he always said was my conscience, that rosary became my conscience. When did I meet Padre Pio? I met Padre Pio in 1952. I was 8 years old, and my sister was 14. And we heard a little bit of the whole story. We didn't understand too much because we never knew that my mom was dying. So we didn't really live the impact of this whole thing. We only knew that they loved him so much, so it had to be a good thing. And then it came the fact that we were going to confess ourselves as well. So Padre Pio was an incredible man, could be the sweetest, it could be the roughest that you can think about, because I remember the first time I was waiting for my turn in confession, there was my sister on the other side, and out of the blue we both were crying our hearts out, because we knew, and that we knew, that he was going to give everything in our soul. So I was thinking, what did I do, what did I do? And then, that's why I'm saying, as Italians, we all need somebody to help us out, because I'm not proud to tell you that when it was my turn to confession, I kneeled down, and the first thing I said was, Padre, I am Professor Brunotenti's daughter. So I said, he thinks something, he will be more kind. Now, every year from that moment, my father was going, even if he was in Australia, every month my father never missed a board meeting at the hospital. And of course, he was confessing with Padre Pio, he was talking. He really thought they were friends. And everybody else, they were really a big family. Instead, my mother, my sister, and myself were going at least 4, 5, sometimes 6 times a year back when confessions were coming. Because you, as I told you, you sign your name and leaving the phone number, and then who was in charge of the book, when he realized that your name was approaching, they were calling us whenever we were, in Italy, in Europe, wherever, and we would have gone down waiting. Sometimes you had to wait more because sometimes Padre Pio was not feeling well, sometimes confession was very quickly. And I remember, here you have the Sweet 16, which is very important for every girl. In Italy we have the 18th birthday. The 18th birthday is the special day when for the first time there is a ball and you are wearing a long dress. And I know that sometimes I see in some magazines that they are still doing here, but for us was nothing extravagant, was part of what we did. But for whoever was waiting for that day, it was very important. But then my confession arrived much before anticipated. So with my mother's dressmaker, I had made the design of the dress I would have loved to have. And then she was supposed to prepare the dress, I was supposed to fit the dress, and eventually made some correction, and then there was the big night. But my confession was coming, so I went down waiting for the confession, absolutely positive I had time to come back. But Padre Pio was not feeling well. And so the confession was postponed, and was postponed, and was postponed. And I didn't know what to do. Because if I was not going back, nobody would have fit my dress. I didn't have a dress to go to the party. But I was missing a confession with Padre Pio for my dresses. So I was very torn. And then I decided not to go back. I was waiting for the confession. So I waited for the confession, and the confession was in the morning of the day before the dance. So I had the confession, I went on the train, 12 hours, and I arrived home the night before the dance. Oh, God. Sorry about that. So when I entered my bedroom, hanging, there is a beautiful dress I had designed. I tried the dress was perfect. So I didn't know what was happening. And my mother said that something very strange happened. The dressmaker had decided to try, she was preparing the dress, she has decided to try, maybe they would have worked the whole night if I was coming back in time to finish the dress. But when they were sewing, they found themselves sewing like crazy and they didn't know what was happening. And the dress was finished. And so they were just praying that it was finished perfect for me. The dress was perfect. I went to the dance. And then I was saying, that's this stupid thing. I know it's stupid. What is a dress? What is a part? But I want to show you this side of Padre Pio. This side of the fact that he can only give you a kiss just to say thank you. You were there for me, I'm here for you. And, okay, now, the same year was my parents' 25th wedding anniversary. So, many of her friends have gone there, brought by my parents, but a lot of them were as far as they could from religion. So my father and my mother decided to have their 25th wedding anniversary party in San Giovanni Rotondo. And they invited and hosted all their friends, and so they couldn't say no. So everybody arrived there, and my father had arranged to introduce all the men to Padre Pio. My mother had also, and some of them were able to confess. There was a beautiful, beautiful dinner party. Everybody had the best time. I don't know if you remember, in the movie there was a priest at the beginning that was presenting the fact that he had met Padre Pio. That priest was Don Setti. That priest was brought to San Giovanni Rotondo by my father, and this is the priest who married Mary and myself and baptized all my girls. So he was there with us, and it was a fantastic, fantastic night. The following morning, my father immediately went to Padre Pio and said, and he wanted to tell him all about. And I said, Padre, the only thing that was missing was you. And Padre Pio told him, who told you that I wasn't there? Oh yes, I know you were in spirit. No, but don't you think that that broth sounds a little too smoky? No. So he went back to the hotel, went to the kitchen and asked, there was a problem, and he said yes, because they wanted to do a chicken broth, but there wasn't the fire too long, the meat attached to the, and it was, sounded like smoke, but they tried to put a lot of things inside so it would camouflage the taste. So that was another little big gift to us. Now, 1956. I had studied languages, but then I decided I wanted to do something more with my life, and I became a nurse. And in my time, a long time ago, the syringe were in glass. So we had to wash the syringe with soap before giving them to be sterilized. And because I chose to be in the surgery room, there was a lot of things. If you were with some doctor that was not alive in time, then you prolong your term to long hours, so I was exhausted, and you become careless. So I was washing quickly this syringe. I had not removed the needle. Evidently, one of the injection I had done before to a patient, he had to have hepatitis, because 3 months later, hepatitis came out. This was 1966. This was not hepatitis, the regular one that you get from food, but was a kind of hepatitis that was totally unknown in Italy at that time. Now you call that hepatitis B. So there was no cure. They didn't have a clue what I was doing. I had 2 heart attacks at that time, and I was dying. So my father was in Japan, and my mom called a friend of the family, who was also converted by Padre Pio, whose name was Giuseppe Canaponi, and it was very, very emotional, because his face came among the people who were going to see Padre Pio when he had died. And and my mother was 1, 2, 3. If he asked you something, you do it. So he called this poor gentleman, and he said, Ada is dying, Bruno, my husband, is in Japan. Go on the first train to Padre Pio and ask him for the miracle. There was no other way of communication at that time. She couldn't call Padre Pio on the phone. And so he did 12 hours by train. He went down, and he saw Padre Pio just before he was going up to retire. And he's telling him about me, and Padre Pio looks at Mr. Canaponi and said, I'm sorry, I cannot do anything about it. The other one, who was one of those Florentines full of zest, said, wait a minute, are you telling me that I'm talking to you about the daughter of Professor Tank, which is a friend of yours, and you are telling me that you cannot do anything about? I'm not going to call Mrs. Tank. I'm not moving from here. You do whatever you can. I don't want to know, but you do something about, and you get this miracle. So my mom didn't have any phone call, so she was continuing praying. Mr. Canaponi never moved from San Giovanni Rotondo, and I don't know if you know that Padre Pio had the gift of bilocation. Do you know what is bilocation? Bilocation is to be with body, real body, flesh, blood, everything, brain in 2 places, completely opposite at the same time. Okay, this is the gift of bilocation. So after 3 days, Padre Pio called Canaponi and told him that he had been for 3 days and 3 nights kneeling in front of the Virgin Mary, and finally at the end of the 3rd day, the Virgin Mary smiled and said yes. And so we were, you see the end, my father and myself were in San Giovanni Rotondo. My father for a board meeting, I waited for my confession the day before Padre Pio's death. And the 22nd in the morning, my father said, Ada, you have never had a confession, he's too sick. If God is good and he will be able to recover, we will come next month. But now he had to go back for something important. And so we left. So we traveled 12 hours on the 22nd. The day that he died, we came back, on the 23rd, we came back to Florence. We come out of the train, and there are, the newspapers have those...
headlines?
No, the headlines of something, and it was written, the sudden death of Padre Pio. So my father called my mom. We went on the first train back, and we traveled the whole night. And then we were there just for Padre Pio's funeral. Now, time goes by, we get married, yes. We have 3 beautiful girls. We are in Scarsdale, which is in Westchester, and my husband is still working for an Italian company. And then he decided to accept a job to run 3 plants in New Jersey. So we moved to Ransom in New Jersey, which was good because it has excellent public school system, which we love. And we are now full of boxes. I didn't know anybody. We had to put the kids in school. Was interesting, traumatic, beautiful, all together. And the day of our wedding anniversary, which is the 8th of December, I have a phone call from Italy that my sister is very, very sick. Nobody knows what she has, is very sick, so I'm trying to call around, and I finally a friend is telling me, Ada, come down, because I don't think she can make it. So I'm leaving my husband, 3 kids, and Chiara, the older one, was in 5th grade. I didn't know I was sold yet. And I left. And yes, my sister had stage 4 cancer. And 2 weeks later, my mother goes in another hospital, also with stage 4 cancer. And my father was in a love denial, I would say. And I was the only other one. So from that moment, for 4 years, I was like 5-6 months in Florence, and 2 or 3 weeks here, and on and on and on. And I was chewed by guilt, because if I was there, I wasn't here. If I was here, I wasn't there. So my physical was going worse and worse and worse. And to a point, I didn't lose faith, because when you lose faith, you are angry. I didn't lose faith. I lost the power of feelings, which is worst, because I couldn't feel anything anymore. And I understood for the first time in my life how certain people can really arrive to commit suicide, because when any emotion, any possibility in yourself is gone, then there is nothing. The only thing I had to hold on was the love of my husband and my kids. And I didn't know how to do for them what I wanted to do, because I didn't have it in me. But I was still hoping to find back the faith I only once had. And so many times I was hoping, when nobody was seeing me, going to the church to cry. And I never knew, since a few years later, that 2 ladies were there. They saw me crying. They didn't know who I was. They found out why I was there crying. And they started praying with me, for somebody who they didn't even know. And these are Mary Jane McDermott and Lucky Parent, who just came from New Jersey to be with me now. We have done wild things together. We have gone 17, 18 times to Medjugorje. We are perfect. But the fact was that I didn't know how to come out of this tunnel who was cremating me. And I would even say to Padre Pio, where are you? And one morning, it was a Saturday morning, I woke up with the desire to pray. I almost dropped dead, because I never had that desire for years. start praying, and you know when you fell in love for the first time, you know that goosebump, that something that goes inside and you feel, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. That's it. From that moment, and in that event, I realized what they say, that faith is a gift. We don't earn faith. Faith is a gift, but we have to ask for it. We have never to give up, and then it comes back. And thank God, up to now, it never left me again. Sorry, I have to read this. Now, there was a dear friend of ours, but I only saw her socially. She was delightful, but you know those lovely persons that you meet, cocktail events that you just don't, maybe you are in different circle of friends. And one day, Mary Jane McDermott found out that she had breast cancer, and for some reason, she was looking for something about Padre Pio, because she never met him, she heard about, and she wanted to pray to him, but she wanted to know more about it. So immediately Mary Jane said, put the two of us together, and this friend was Dini Stegro, and we start talking, and when we were talking, and I was talking and talking about Padre Pio, everything came back. And Dini had cancer 3 times. 2 times she was completely cancer-free, but every time she had a cancer, she got the miracle of horrible things that were happening in her family. Suddenly disappeared. People had converted, and then she had problems even with some of the kids. And then the kids converted as well, and then cancer came for the 3rd time. And this time she was suffering so much that she really had horrible open wounds here, horrible. And the pain she had was horrible, but I was going with the glove of Padre Pio to pray with, and every time that the glove of Padre Pio was touching her, the pain completely subsided. So many times it happened that I got a phone call even in the middle of the night to go and run with the glove of Padre Pio, and I said, Dini, I love you very much, but enough is enough. Why don't I give you the glove and keep it in your nightstand? You can even close with the key, so you're sure nobody's touching. But whenever is the time, your husband just get the glove, pray, you are feeling well, and you go. So she's laughing, okay. So this is happening, and this is going on. Every other day, I'm passing by, we have breakfast together, and then Christmas arrives. She had been very frantic, preparing all the Christmas presents. I had helped her for some of them. And then suddenly, a few days before Christmas, I received a card from her. And she's thanking me for everything I have done for her. I'm thinking, why did she write? We speak almost every day. Why she had to write a card to me? But then it was Christmas. I was preparing Christmas for our family. And she was full of kids and relatives. So 2 or 3 days go by. And I remember, my daughter, I didn't even talk to Dini. So I called. And somebody's answering the phone. And I said, I'm Ada Merlini. Oh, Ada, it's you. Come over, Dini's dying. So I ran immediately to her house, and they say, go upstairs. I ran upstairs, I entered her bedroom, and her husband is coming out. She looked at me and he said, oh my God, then it is true. I don't know what he's talking about. Dini was already in possibly coma. And the whole family, they were crying. So they all said, Ada, can you pray with us? So we just say to Dini, you can go now. It's perfect. Everything is perfect. You can go now. So then I leave because I want that the families by themselves are not family. So I go home, and later on, Donald, the husband, called me, and he's telling me that Dini has died. And Jess is telling me, Ada, I have to apologize for what I told you when you arrived, because when Dini started feeling, she couldn't breathe anymore, and he didn't know what else to do for her. Then the last thing he thought to get again the glove and bring it to her, but the moment he had the glove in his hands, he said, it is really you? What are you doing? She's dying. I was hoping you were to cure her again. What are you doing? Are you real or not? But if you are real, if it is coming with you, give me a sign, otherwise I will never believe you again. In the moment he finished saying that, I arrived. And it was the only connection that he had with Padre Pio. And that's what he said, that it is true. And then he spoke at length with Donna and said, Donna, you don't understand. The miracle of the body sometimes happens for a reason. But the reason is always to get the soul, either of the person who is sick or the person around you. But dying is not the end. Dying is to go home, to go where everybody has to be hoping to go. And so it was beautiful because Donald was beautiful, and so I will say goodbye to Dini. Then I had so many things happening. And you know, don't forget that Padre, as I told you before, had a terrific sense of humor. So we have friends. We had about a dear friend of ours, a friend that such a sense of humor. We adore her. And suddenly we thought she had cancer. And she had to have surgery for cancer. And so a few days before, we meet in a very fancy place that could be Denny's or something like that to have a quick breakfast. And I brought the Rosary of Padre Pio to give to her, and because her husband had a horrible heart problem, and we were almost more afraid of him than her. And he said, okay. I gave that, I gave an image of Padre Pio, and I said, listen, and she's Jackie Halligan, our dear friend. I said, listen, Jackie, just to be straight, I give you the Rosary of Padre Pio, but if Padre Pio does a miracle, and you lose the Rosary, I'm killing you. So just to be straight. So she's laughing, I'm laughing, we are laughing because when Jane and Taki were with me that day. And she goes to Morristown Hospital, which is not a religious hospital, north of where we live. Her husband is there, and we are afraid he might have a heart attack because his heart was very bad and he was very tense. So she's giving him the Rosary of Padre Pio, and he said, don't lose it, otherwise Chiara is killing me even if it's not cancer. So she goes to the surgery for cancer. And he hears in a loudspeaker that there is a Catholic Mass of a foreign priest passing by, and so whoever wanted to listen to this, he go to the chapel. So he thinks it's a good idea. He's going to the chapel. There is this priest, arriving this priest saying Mass with a strange accent, and then suddenly he almost fell asleep. And he wakes up, and then he receives communion, and then goes back to the room, and sometimes later Jackie arrives back from the surgery room, and they have done all the biopsy and there was no cancer. Okay, they go home, and she's asking the husband if he has the rosary. Yes, the rosary is here. And then the husband, looking at the image that she had on the nightstand, is asking her, who gave you this? Who gave you this image at the hospital? She says, nobody gave me. This is what Ada gave me. This is Padre Pio. I told you this is the rosary of Padre Pio. No, I'm asking you, who gave you this? Because this is the priest who said Mass. So he goes back to the hospital, and he's asking who was the priest who said Mass. And they said, we are not a Catholic hospital. We never had any Mass. So now, some times go by, we have Don McDermott, who is going to have the surgery of prostate cancer, and he didn't want to sleep in Manhattan. The idea was I drive at 4 a.m. towards the hospital so he could have a very early surgery. And Mary Jane was going with him, and I said, Mary Jane, you are crazy, I'm coming with you, because what do you do at that time? So, but the night before, because she knew about what happened to Jack, she was telling Dawn, positively, Padre Pio somehow will appear and will tell us something. So he was watching TV, and he was watching a Mrs. Without a Trace, and she was folding something out of the dryer, and while they were watching this mystery something, there was I think if I remember correctly, there was some sort of exorcism about, and one policeman was telling the other policeman in the sitcom, okay, on TV. Oh yes, but there was a case, you know, I know a person that went to Padre Pio for this, and Padre Pio told them, don't worry about it, everything will be fine. And it was. Now, I had a surgery in 2007, and I normally pray for everybody else, because I never thought to pray for myself. So now we are going to spend the night in Manhattan with friends, and then I was going to have the surgery. So Neri is already in the car, a little anxious to go, and I'm always late. So I was doing the last things, and then the bell rang. We just came back from Medjugorje, I would say 1 or 2 months before. And in this group, with Mary Jane, we... Oh, yes. In this group with Mary Jane, we brought 1 or 2 young mothers that are part of a Rosary group. And the bell rang, and I opened, and there was Mary Jane and this lovely young mother, which I really didn't know very well at all, who, knowing that I was going to have a surgery, had done a beautiful quilt. And this quilt was folded in a way, and in the middle, on one side there was a Virgin Mary, on the other side, and the folded was that she was presenting to me was on the other side. There was a photo of smiling Padre Pio. And it was like to say, okay, do you think that I'm not going to be with you? These are little things that you never forget. Now, in 2017, I had pancreatic cancer. I was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and I was very lucky because we found out with a little sonogram for kidney stones. They saw this shadow and the pancreas. I had the surgery. The surgery was perfect. Everything was removed, and you always think, pancreatic cancer is very unforgiving, so you never know when it comes back. But you always think something happens in my life. It could be the loss of someone. I don't want to compare with the loss of a job, but sometimes it is if you have family. Or anything that happened in your life, something major. I'm not talking stupidity, I'm talking major. And sometimes if you say, or you think, why me? Why it is happening to me? Or what is the meaning of this? There is also another side of this. The other side is that thing happens in life, and we are not ruling anything, but it's important how we react to that. So, for me, the miracle that I have received in this situation was serenity. A serenity that is not me, because I'm a normal with all the ups and downs of feelings that everybody has, but serenity. And then, for me, has been to have my whole family together with the same purpose of meeting each other, to have time to be together, to have time to see who we are, to have time to prepare for our future, whatever the our future will be. But I think these are the most important things in life. And we always think, and we have to remember that we are not alone. That is the most important things that we have to remember, we are not alone. That's this take to see, you know how many videos I have seen? Many, either on TV or both or whatever. And there is never maybe somebody that I recognize or something that brings me back there, only the idea of Padre Pio, of course. So we watch this, and the first thing is the priest who married us. So, wait! Second is Padre Eusebio. Padre Eusebio was the head of the convent, one of the dearest friends of my father. The other one was Padre Pellegrino. Padre Pellegrino is the one who is talking about that his purpose was to be always in the cell next to Padre Pio, and they were only communicating like, what is the name? No, I don't say walkie-talkie, but something like that. Padre Pellegrino, little parenthesis, became a priest in the very old age. I think he was already 45, almost 50. He was in the military, he was captain, he was something like this. And everybody thought he was a very good person. He was not, he was such a nice person. And one of my father's closest friends, and he was always the one who was giving my father like a little gift, like the flower of Padre Pio. And one day, Mary Jane and I, we are in Medjugorje, after Medjugorje we went to, maybe you went there too, I don't remember. We went to Padre Pio, and I saw a book in English written by him, so I got it. I got it and I brought home. And it was a moment of, you know when you start self-pity, do you remember what self-pity is? We have been to San Giovanni Rotondo a few times, but now I am an outsider, I'm somebody new. All the things I remember, they're gone, I belong, I don't belong. And I am now living in the United States, and you have that stupid moment in which, will anybody remember my parents? You know, those stupid things that you... So I put that book on the side because I prefer to read something more fun. And then one day I said, okay, I'll start. And this book is totally different from any book that anybody has written. Because all the book of Padre Pio are talking about him and miracles, him and people and miracles. Because Padre Pio was there to confess people and to convert people and to do also some physical miracle, to intercede for some physical miracle. Let's put it this way. This book is totally different. This book is the life between Padre Pellegrino and Padre Pio. Their everyday life is delightful because there is all the nuance of Padre Pio and Padre Pellegrino and how one was trying to treat the other one. It was a delight. Padre Pellegrino had only one, it's not a sin, but one thing that was, you could die for that. He loved theater. He so many times faked that he had to go and visit sick people because he knew that there was a comedy or something that he could see. Anytime he could, he did that. One day, so we are now half of the book, this is a book this big, half of the book about him and Padre Pio. In the middle of this book is written this. Suddenly, he realized that one of the biggest dramatic actors in Italy, Titina De Filippo, has arrived to San Giovanni Rotondo. She's very sick and she wants to see Padre Pio. But she only had 2 hours. And when she arrived, Padre Pio has already gone out for the night. So Padre Pellegrino's friend, this is in the book, and he says, oh my God, this is Titina De Filippo. She wants to see Padre Pio. She's sick. She has to see Padre Pio. There is no question about she will see Padre Pio. So he has to go out and look for somebody that he could trust with his life, that she will be intelligent and open enough to speak and interest this actress, and he will put the 2 of them in a special secret room in between, so that he can go up, find a way, which way, any way, to bring Padre Pio down again, so that Titina De Filippo can see Padre Pio, and they can talk. So he goes out of the convent, look around, and he finds my mom. The name of my mom, the wife of my father, and everything about my father. And then he goes up, and then there is a dance, because Padre Pio knows exactly what Padre Pellegrino wants to say, but he pretends he doesn't even think about it. So he's finding any possible way, and then Padre Pio said yes, comes down. And then my mom, very graciously, go on the bank of the room, say the rosary, so that Titina De Filippo and Padre Pio can talk, and then Padre Pio goes up, and then the rest of the book is just him and Padre Pio. So when I saw that, and I said, okay, Padre Pio, I'm not asking you for anything anymore. So I'm very grateful. I know that whatever will be in my life and in my family. Oh, and these funny things, when the last person that I saw coming out, following the crowd to say goodbye to Padre Pio, was Giuseppe Canaponi. Giuseppe Canaponi is the gentleman who went down to plead Padre Pio for my miracle of the hepatitis in 1966. So when Mary and I saw this, we looked at each other and we said, thank you, Padre Pio. Thank you, Padre Pio, not for whatever will be for me in the future. Thank you, Padre Pio, just to be with us. The reason why I'm so happy to be here now is because Padre Pio said that everybody who prays to him becomes a spiritual daughter or a spiritual son of his. And that he will never enter in this gate of heaven until the last one of his spiritual son or daughters is up with him. Of course it's up to us, but so I know that whatever it is, my family, because we don't live till 200 years old, so whatever it is that one day we will be up, our family will always be followed by an intercessors. Remember that, an intercessors. Okay? Thank you.